Another day, another packet. Bubble wrap. Oh, okay. This is the guide to Hever Church that I ordered. An old guide to Hever Church, to see if we can find out any more about that Bullen Chapel. Don't know how old it is. Look, price 15 pence. This has got on this. So let's have a look. This is from 1975. So I'm just looking to see the Bullen Chapel. Right, so I'm just going to read what it says in here. The Bullen Chapel. Here one passes to later times, for the chapel was added to the church and is probably only 500 years old. That is some 200 years later than the main part of the church. It says the main feature of the Bullen Chapel is the tomb of Sir Thomas Boleyn, the father of Anne Boleyn, and therefore, of course, the grandfather of Queen Elizabeth I. On the tomb is a very fine brass showing Sir Thomas in the robes of a knight of the Garter. Yeah, which I'm sure is later. You can study this best by looking at the grand rubbing of the brass presented by the Secretary of the Monumental Brass Society to the church. Okay, fine. I don't remember seeing that when I was there. The brass is one of the two in England depicting the full robes and insignia of the Order of the Garter. The other is to the memory of Sir Humphry Bourchier, 1483 in Little Easton Church, Essex. Okay, so there's only two. There's a bit in there about the son. They've got this wrong, because it says Henry William, the son of Thomas Boleyn. That's not what it says, though. It doesn't actually say that. Right, I'm trying to find out if it says about the person under the... It doesn't. Look, you know, who is that person under the carpet? He's not listed in here either. Right, that's strange, isn't it? Right, and then the brass to Margaret Cheyne, or Cheyne, or Cheyne, I don't know how you pronounce it. This brass and the Bullen brass are well known and find their place in most books on church brasses. I think it's late. I think it's really late though, that one. I really am convinced of it. You have come into the church through an old door on the south side, and are therefore surrounded by walls, portions of which have stood here since about 1292. For it was at this date that the north aisle opposite you, and some of the nave, was built. There has, however, been prayer on this spot for 850 years, for there was a Norman church here before the early English one. The brass found in 1949. They found a brass in 1949. That's interesting. In October of 1949, Mr. Reginald Pearson, the Secretary of the Monumental Brass Society, examined the brass, which records the memory of Richard Clarke. The brass has been fastened to the northwest wall of the church. It reads, "On your charity, pray for the soul of Richard Clarke, which deceased the 6th day of April in the year of our Lord," and then we don't know. Which deceased? That's strange, isn't it? You could call which for a person. Oh, is it? Or is it for the soul? That's why they're saying which, is it? I don't know. Maybe they changed. Right, on turning over the brass, Mr. Pearson discovered that apparently when the good people of Hever wished to commemorate Richard Clarke, they had used an old piece of brass which they probably found in the church. From the form of the lettering, it is thought that the memorial to Richard Clarke is about 1450. But the brass itself may be 50 or years so earlier. I don't know, but they still don't tell us. They don't say very much, do they, about all this? This is interesting. It says here, the parish books, these are mostly in the parish chest in the Bullen Chapel, though some of the earliest are in the iron box in the vestry, and the two oldest ones were on indefinite loan to the County Archives Department at Maidstone. So this says, the first registers of Hever have however been lost. Our earliest is dated 1632. Our oldest church book is the church warden's accounts of 1603. But the really interesting series begin in 1646 with the church wardens and overseers accounts of the years 1646 to 1723. As you probably know, 300 years ago and until the latter part of the 19th century, the church wardens and the parish vestry were responsible for for so many things which nowadays come out of rates and taxes. Hence our parish books show how poor rates and highway rates are assessed on the inhabitants. Right, I'm really confused then. If the church warden's accounts, the earliest is from 1603, how actually do they know who built that chapel? Why is it called the Bullen Chapel? Has it been renamed later on, the Bullen Chapel? What's the earliest name in the records for the Bullen Chapel? So I need to contact the Kent archives and see what they hold and if any of the books are still in the church, and then try and find out about this. This is a big mystery, this, to me, this Thomas Boleyn grave. And who is that other... Bloody hell, almost shat myself there. It's the fire alarm testing. Who is the other person who's buried in that chapel under the carpet, whose stone I saw, but is not marked anywhere? There's a lot to unravel about St. Peter's in Hever.